You do not need to know thousands of words to be fluent in English, but you do need to know some words to be fluent in English. My name's Christopher from chrisamericos.com, and in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can very quickly, very easily learn 2,000 English words, and you can build your vocabulary and grow your fluency. Now, there are 3 phases of becoming fluent in English, and I'm going to talk about them in this video. I don't know why other people aren't talking about them. It's very easy, and when I show you, you're going to say, wow, why didn't anyone tell me about that before? And it really makes sense. But before we do that, I have to tell you, I've created a shortcut that's going to make learning the language and becoming fluent in English very, very simple. It's going to take away all of the headache, all of the stress, all the frustration. I want to share this with you today because I know that there aren't a lot of people out there who are giving you shortcuts like this. I've looked everywhere and I didn't find any, so I created my own. And this shortcut gives you lessons every day that will build your vocabulary. It gives you quizzes that will test you on what you've learned. And these are new lessons and new quizzes every day of the year. And then on top of that, you need to be able to implement, to use what you learn. And that's why I've created a special community where you can join us and communicate with us in our chat, in posts, and in our live room, face to face, so that you can implement, you can use what you have learned in the lessons and test it in the quizzes. Okay, so this is something that I call my English Club. And before I tell you about building your vocabulary today in this video, I want to make sure that you know that you have this shortcut. So there's a link under this video that will help you get started. And I've made it very easy, very inexpensive, and all you have to do is start today to get this special shortcut now. All right, now there are 3 phases to becoming fluent in English. I haven't heard anyone else talking about this. And probably it's because this is one of the many theories that I've developed in my 15 years teaching English and helping millions of students around the world become fluent in English. I've seen it happen so many times that I've noticed patterns. I've noticed what works for people and what doesn't work for people. And that has given me a real advantage as a teacher. That means that I know the most effective methods and I put them into each of my lessons. And today in this video, I think you're really going to like understanding how these 3 phases work. So let's jump right in. The first phase of becoming fluent in English is what I call the learning phase. And during this phase, you usually build your vocabulary, you learn grammar rules, you listen to people speaking like you're doing right now, and you practice writing like you might be doing in the comments under this video, right? And by the way, go ahead and write a comment down there if you want to get access to my shortcut. Just write the word shortcut and I'll know that you want it and I'll try to reply to you and show you how to get started. So the first phase is the learning phase. And you might be thinking, well, Chris, aren't all phases of becoming fluent about learning English? Yes, but in the learning phase of becoming fluent, you don't have a lot of production in speaking. You practice writing, you listen, you read, but you don't have a lot of speaking practice. And you probably know this because there's a lot of people out there. This is the phase where most people get stuck, right? So you might have gone to a classroom or a language center or university or school and you learned from a book and you spoke like one word or one sentence sometimes and you can't remember it. And then when you're in a real situation, you have trouble speaking, right? So that's because you're stuck in the learning phase. A lot of people don't think of it like this in phases. Instead, they think of skills and levels. And let me tell you, levels are a trick. Levels are made to make you think about yourself in a special way and limit yourself. Just think about what a level is. A level means that you tell yourself you are not as advanced as you want to be yet, right? It tells you you're in a special position, but in reality, every person is different. There's no way to say that people who have the same level really have the same level, right? It doesn't actually work. That's why every classroom you go to, when they put you into a level, a group level, the people there aren't really on your level, right? So anyways, that's one problem that we have with the traditional way that people learn English, is that teachers and schools, they're telling you that you need to think about yourself in a level, that you need to put yourself in a category. You don't need to do that, okay? So there's a phase. You go through this phase, and there are certain skills that you build. And it's necessary to go through this phase, okay? So like if you're stuck in the learning phase right now and you can't speak, you don't have speaking partners, don't worry, right? That's just the first phase of developing your English fluency, because you can't speak if you don't have vocabulary, right? You can't speak if you don't know some rules. You can't speak if you don't know how it's supposed to sound or how the words are supposed to go together. So that's why you do all of those basic skills first, and then you build speaking on top of that. And speaking is the second phase. It's the speaking phase, okay? And in the speaking phase, you focus on real life use of the language. You focus on producing the language vocally, verbally, right, out of your mouth, right? And so this is the speaking skill. It's part of the speaking phase, and it's important that it's different from the learning phase. You continue the learning phase. The learning phase doesn't stop when you go into the speaking phase. But when you go into the speaking phase, you start to have these feelings where you really feel a boost in your language fluency and in your confidence. And that's really what people talk about when they say that they're breaking the language barrier. You've heard that before. You've heard people say to break the language barrier. What that really means is that you've entered into and you've become comfortable with the speaking phase of becoming fluent. Now, just because someone can speak a little bit of English doesn't mean that they're fluent, right? Just like if you can write something online, it doesn't mean you're fluent. Like if you write a comment, I'll read your comment and maybe it's written perfectly, but that doesn't mean that you're fluent in English, right? Because if I meet you face to face, you might not be able to say anything. A lot of people get stuck in that learning phase like that. So the speaking phase is very, very important. And when someone says that they've broken the language barrier and they feel like they've gone past that barrier, gone up to the next level, that's really what's happening here, is that they've opened up the speaking phase. And not everybody gets there. So if you've gotten there, you're lucky, and congratulations, because it takes a lot of work to get there in any language. And so that's the second phase. And I could talk about the speaking phase a lot, because that's where I've worked with the most students to help them start speaking. I even have a special speaking club where we practice speaking with students from around the world every day, right? I have a team of professional teachers who work with me, and they help give students speaking practice every day. So that's great, because another part of the speaking phase is consistent practice. And that's why a lot of people have trouble in this phase. They have trouble because you can't find a speaking partner, right? A lot of people tell me that. They say, Chris, I just can't find a speaking partner. I want to speak more. I want to have more practice. And I say, hey, I created a shortcut for you there too, right? So for each phase, I've created shortcuts from my experience over the last 15 years teaching millions of students around the world. And so I can invite you to join us in those shortcuts. You can just write under the video in the comments, and someone on my team will help connect you. Or you can just reach out to us at chrisamericos.com. You can send us an email, support@chrisamericos.com. So yeah, a speaking club like what we have is a good way for you to get regular practice, especially if it's every day or many times a day like what we do, and especially if it's with people from around the world and professional teachers. That's really important. But then we have the third phase. And you might be thinking, if I've learned English, if I've learned all the rules and the words, and I can speak English, then I'm fluent, right? Unfortunately, no, because a lot of people get stuck speaking in a way that isn't fluent, right? Speaking like a robot, speaking like a book. Maybe you use some apps on your phone and you talk with a robot or you talk with a computer program, and then you start to sound like that, right? Or maybe you just learn from a book and you start to speak like a book, and that's not the natural way, right? So when someone says this person sounds fluent or natural and that person doesn't sound fluent or natural, that's what we're talking about. And so the third phase of becoming fluent in English is thinking in English. It's the thinking phase. And in the thinking phase, you need something different, okay? Like in the learning phase, you're trying to be correct. In the learning phase, you're trying to learn the rules and be right and answer questions and show that you're right. But in the speaking phase, you have to stop thinking like that a little bit. You have to be right enough so that people understand you. And you don't have to be perfect when you're speaking, but you need to be correct enough. You need to speak correctly enough so that the person understands you, and they need to speak correctly enough so that you understand them. But in the thinking phase, it's a little different. In the thinking phase, you switch from what is right and what is understandable to what gets the job done. The understanding part of the speaking phase is similar. It gets the job of understanding done, right? It's communication. But another level of communication, and this is important in the thinking phase, is why are you saying the things that you're saying, and where is that conversation going? And how does that make the other person feel? Or how do they react? So how do you get what you want while using English? This is the thinking phase. Because if you want to get a job in English, if you want to get clients or customers in English, if you want to make more money from English, or if you want to have a real conversation and a real relationship with someone in English, then you need to be thinking about why you're saying the things that you're saying. You need to have a deeper reason of why you're doing this. And probably you're trying to use the words in order to do something. You see, that's the big difference here. The speaking phase is all about just using the words to be understood or to understand. It's about the words themselves. The words and the phrases and the sentences themselves. But in the thinking phase, it's actually about what result we can get by using words. How can we convince someone? How can we make someone feel loved? How can we make someone trust us? How can we persuade someone? This is very, very important when you start to apply English to your real life and try to get real results. And so that's why it's important to go through all three of these phases if you want to truly be fluent. But if you're stuck right now, if you're still just learning the rules and if you're still learning your vocabulary, right? Maybe you can understand what I'm saying. Maybe you're in the first phase, the learning phase, and you're watching YouTube videos and you're looking at teachers all over the internet and just learning what you can for free. Hey, I hear you. That's a good place to start. I have created a shortcut, and it's not expensive, and the link is under this video. So if you want to come to our English club and go faster and learn 2,000 words, you can do that very, very quickly. And the way that you can do that is by chunking. You chunk the words. You chunk what you're learning. And chunking means breaking it down into smaller pieces. So if you want to learn 2,000 words in a year, then you break that down. You say, that's 6 words every day. That's 42 words every week. That's 180 words every month. You see, when you say you need to learn 6 words every day, it doesn't sound like it's so difficult, right? When you say you need to learn 2,000 words, it sounds hard. But when you say that you need to learn only 6 words every day, it's easy. And that's why in our English club, every single day, we're giving you new lessons, new quizzes to help you remember what you've learned and test what you've learned. And then you can go into the community, you can communicate with other people, and you can use it. And then if you want to speak with people, you can go to the live room. That resource is just a major shortcut for you. It's going to make things so much easier and faster. If you also want to practice speaking, we have a speaking club after that you can also be part of. And that, again, is a shortcut for you in the speaking phase. And I have another program, another shortcut for you in the thinking phase. But I'm not going to tell you about that right now because I only work there with students who have already gone through the other phases. So I hope that in this video, what I was able to do for you was to explain these phases, which you've probably never heard of before. And I don't know why. I don't know why people aren't talking about it. Everyone wants to put you into a level, probably because they want to sell you the next level. They want to make you think that you're in this level so they can sell you the next level when you're done. But anyways, right now, you know the phases. You know what you need to work on. And you understand how to build these skills. First, you build the base in the learning phase, and then the speaking phase, and then the thinking phase. And now you have shortcuts if you click the link under the video. So if you want one of those shortcuts, just comment the word shortcut, and one of my teammates will send you over a link to get started. And you can also just contact us at chrisamericos.com. You can send us an email, support@chrisamericos.com, and we will help you get started. But now you know the phases. Now you have a different way to think about how you're becoming fluent in English. And I hope that helps. That's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one.